It's a hell of a good week to be a One Piece fan right now. And with Gear 5 coming out tomorrow and this new chapter, alright, we're doing very well. I guess it's tonight for a lot of people, but over here in Ireland it's Sunday morning. So alright boys, that's gonna be cool. But this chapter was crazy. A lot of the stuff that people might have liked about it, I was more excited about some other stuff. My favorite part of the chapter probably was the first page, where they opened up with obviously, Makino and Whoopslap reading about the stuff that's happening to Garp and Luffy and things like that. And what was really interesting to me was that the baby, Makino has the baby basically calling Luffy big brother, right? And I don't think that means Makino is like Luffy's mother or whatever. I mean, it'd be cool if it turned out she actually was, and it was just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they didn't want them having like a motherly connection to kind of avoid suspicion, and she turns out that kid is actually Luffy's brother and is like literally Dragon's other son. He came back during like the 2 year time skip or something. I don't know, be mad to be fair. And then that sort of stuff was happening. I don't know. I think I'd be interested in that if like because Oda has said we might have seen her already, right? In an SBS or something. I wouldn't mind it being Makino or something, or what's the name? God, I can't remember. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or whatever. Makino, isn't it? Let me double check. Okay, I don't think it says it here. Alright. Forgive my pronunciations, but I think that being an idea would be really, really cool. In my personal opinion, anyway. I mean, obviously a lot of people think that's, baby Shanks's kid or Shanks's kid, you know what I mean? Which at the same time would also be really cool. But the idea that we might have already been introduced to her mother, but what I was thinking actually was something. Was that what if instead of having, Makino be Luffy's mother directly, what if she's like an aunt or something? And like so Makino is like the sister of Luffy's mother and has that involvement that way. I think that'd be an interesting take. So that way you can still have, Luffy's mother be dead and have some involvement in Dragon's reason for doing what he's doing, but also have a person related to his mother still around in Luffy's life. I think that'd be interesting, to be honest. And then obviously have Shanks connected to Luffy again in that way. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing I just thought of when I was reading this chapter. I'm sure it's been brought around a decent bit. But with Boofy going around now, I feel like Oda might be setting up for a sequel. I don't know how I feel about it, but you know what? We've been having sequels. You don't have to acknowledge them as part of the series. Look at what the Naruto fans are doing to Boruto. So I'm not gonna be worried about that right now. But I'm really excited about Whoopslap because Whoopslap. Imagine if Whoopslap turns out to be like, since we're talking about that, turns out to be like Luffy's mother's grand or like dad or something, and you just kind of. He's literally just chilling there. He's like, all right. He like knows more than he's letting on. Imagine he was one of the Marines or something, or he was like a pirate on Rox's crew. What if Whoopslap was a pirate on Rox's crew? Oh my god, that's something I want to see, right? Imagine that. Cause like, okay, we know Garp was involved in God Valley, so imagine if like Garp got a few of the people to switch sides. Like we know, Whitebeard was probably the one who said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I've got to follow my morals. So what if Whoopsop was a part of his division or something and switched over with Whitebeard, and then Garp, as a part of his service, Garp let him basically just live out his days in Fuchsia Village and have a nice life. And then obviously the stuff with Dragon, maybe he had Dragon's wife at some point, and then that's how they met. I think that would be so funny. Whoopsap being like some really powerful figure. He could even be a really powerful marine, and he's just completely got rusty. Because we saw that Garp is very strong, but Rayleigh's very rusty. So we can see the people get rusty. So you could just have that go, and I think that'd be hilarious. But we see everyone reacting to the stories. We also see that the what was it, 16 Heavenly Rays? Is that what they called the Mother Flame attack? Basically left a Eneis lobby style hole where Lelouch used to be. Now, I'm sure people are talking about this right now, but I purposely haven't watched any reviews because I wasn't able to record my own yet up until now. I think the big theory now is going to be God Valley, right? It's going to be the idea that maybe Eneis lobby was built over God Valley. Because if you think about it, right, that was probably the biggest shame for Celestial Dragons, right? to have to give up an island to God Valley and have to do something like that. So, in order to sort of, make the loss less humiliating, they decided to build the ultimate island of justice on top of where God Valley used to be. And I don't think the first thing that popped into my head is it could be Laugh Tale, right? That was the first thing that popped into my head. But I don't think so, because if Laugh Tale's not around, I think that's going to be a very deflating feeling to know that Laugh Tale's not around, because we want to see Laugh Tale, right? And to not have that around because, oh, we were there once before in Eneis Lobby, it turns out, and it just got wiped out, It would explain why the government don't seem to care about Laugh Tale too much, but at the same time, why do they care about the Poneglyph so much if that was the case? So I am thinking maybe, God Valley could have been Eneis Lobby now. Eneis Lobby could have come from God Valley after they wiped it out with that. But also, they would have had to use something else. So here's my idea on the Mother Flame, right? At some point, they must have had Uranus, the ancient weapon, right? And then Roger, during God Valley or at some other point, his big thing that got him, the government, to want to kill him, basically, was that he stole Uranus from them. And so he knows where it is, or he, knows who it is, and he has them somewhere. And then so they got Vegapunk to replicate the abilities of Uranus that they used on God. They used the ancient weapon on God Valley, but they have a replicated version that they used on Lelouchia. And maybe Uranus, what would happen, because they mentioned that, it doesn't look like this is caving in. Now, that was the Gorosei talking to Emu, right? I couldn't tell with the paneling, but assuming that is, maybe God Valley isn't Eneis Lobby, and it actually caved in. Now, I don't know what that would look like, if it was just turn it into sea or whatever, or if we've seen an area like that before. But it'd be interesting, and maybe, Eneis Lobby might have been the first time they tried the Mother Flame or something. But I remember it being around for a while. I don't know. But also the idea that, they actually use Uranus to create Eneis Lobby through getting rid of God Valley would be interesting as well. Because maybe Uranus affects the weather. Because we see that the Mother Flame only affects the sea when it hits, right? But we know that Eneis Lobby is always sunny. So maybe the effects of the ancient weapon itself will always affect the weather around it. Or the time of day around it. It will have a bigger effect than the Mother Flame, which is like a cheap copy or something. I don't know. I think that's an interesting idea. But then we go around the rest of the world and see that it actually did have a major effect on the sea levels. Basically, like, in the Netherlands when the sea level rises and stuff due to global warming. Basically that for One Piece with a bunch of earthquakes and stuff. So a bunch of islands are getting submerged. It's really interesting. I'd say the fishermen are gonna have a lot have a lot of houses to deal with, like debris falling on that. Surely that would damage Fishman Island actually. Like, let's say islands are getting submerged and houses are breaking apart. Surely they'd fall onto Fisherman Island and damage structures or something. No, I would have thought so. But then Fisherman Island is actually very small though, is it? It's only the size of Sobody because it's directly under the Grand Line, so maybe not. The Red Line, sorry. But I don't know. I think that would be fascinating though. Do you not think so? The idea of because we don't see any ramifications for the fishermen. They must have felt it somehow, or some buildings must have fell on them when the islands got submerged. But we see a big, huge effect on the different islands. We might even see it change Elbath, and Elbath might be different now when we go to see it, or different islands might be different. God, imagine Water 7 at the minute, because Water 7 was already having flooding problems. Imagine it now. We actually see Iceberg in this chapter, and we see how he's dealing with it and stuff like that. But I think the most interesting one for me is the Kamabaka Queendom, because we see they're having problems as well. And what if this, along with all the stuff that's happening in Egghead, forces Dragon to get off the island? He's forced to move. He has no choice now because of the stuff that's going on. And then in hindsight now, whenever stuff happens at Marijoa, Emu brought on his own demise by forcing Dragon to make his move early, and whatever that causes, forced Emu to not have time to deal with the dragon problem that he's going to cause. I think that would be fascinating to see, because we do see Kamabaka Queendom very specifically. I don't know. I think that'd be great though. I just really want to see Dragon do something. I don't know. You know me. I've been talking about Dragon for so long. I just want him to do something. You know. Ah well. Then we cut back after we hear about the ramifications of this. We cut back to the island where we see Sentomaru talking to Kizaru over the phone, basically over a transponders now, and we see they're actually pretty close. I mean, he called him Unk in Sabati, which obviously shows they are pretty close. But we see a flashback of like Vegapunk experimenting with Kizaru's powers and Sentomaru like being around there, obviously helping out. So they obviously have some sort of relationship. But one interesting thing that Kizaru said was, I'm just a cog in the machine, man. Like, whatever. You know, what if at one point he was a very, serious guy? He wanted to get stuff done. He had an idea. And then maybe at one point he had an idea that they just didn't like at all. And like, instead of killing him because he was useful and he was strong, they just completely destroyed his will. Like Kaido did with people in Wano, right? The world government just completely destroyed his will, and now he's just like, he just feels dejected and defeated, and he's like, I'm going to be doing this till the day I die anyway, So, what's the point? He's just kind of like, I'm done. What can I do? I'm a cog in the machine. Just got to do my job. I have a bit of a tendency to like a bit of killing, but other than that, man, I just got to do my job, man. There's nothing I can do. My will's been broken. I'm a destroyed man. That's what it felt like to me, right? And maybe that would be an excuse to bring him as one of the weakest, fleet admiral candidates, because he wasn't even considered. Maybe he's not. You know what I mean? Because I feel like besides him being a bit sadistic, I also feel like the idea of the world government actually breaking Kizaru, and that's the reason he is how he is, would be extraordinarily interesting. It would also make sense why they wouldn't promote him to fleet admiral, because at one point he disobeyed them and they don't really trust him as much anymore, right? But they appreciate his skills, so they keep him around as an admiral, right? I think that would be a fascinating idea. But obviously, there's nothing he can really do. I think they're being very clear here to set up Luffy as the main guy. He is that guy. He is the Yonko. I thought we were gonna get some shit going on with like Saint Garcia. He might still cause some problems. But man, they're really bigging up Luffy here. Now this could all go left field and something could happen and then Luffy gets decimated. I don't know, man. I feel like this could be like another Fishman Island where it's just there to big up Luffy, and something will happen where they have to go away at the end. But the entire arc is just Luffy being a badass and Luffy's crew being a badass. We actually get a scene where York is talking, basically summarizing her entire plan to the Gorosei, and then we get this beautiful panel with Luffy finding out that Luffy has captured York. They skipped all of this shit, all of the like little fights at the start of the arc we usually get. You just skipped it. We're getting to the good stuff, you know what I mean? The anime can fill it in for an episode or two. They might actually do that. The anime might add in some filler where they're like finding York, I'd say, just to fill out the episode. And then we're gonna have that, right? But I think that panel was so good. Luffy doesn't care about what he's hearing, but obviously Nami and Robin are keeping an ear out for it. And Usopp's just like holding up the guy. He's like a presenter. Usopp would definitely be a presenter in our world. I know Oda said he'd be something else, but man, Usopp would be like the Late Late Toy Show host who's replacing Ryan Tuberty for the Late Late Toy Show. It's Usopp, man. That'd be gas though. That would be gas. Oh my god, I'd love that actually. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious, not gonna lie. But this chapter is it's very clearly setting up for the big war that they're happening here, but also no mention of the Blackbeard ship. So I think that might be what the big twist is, right? We spend the next like 10, 15 chapters with Luffy just doing, or not even that, probably like 5 chapters. I'll just being real quick. The next 5 chapters, Luffy just wrecking house, showing the Marines who's boss. He probably knocks out everything. Everyone, all 30,000 Marines, just gone. Or even Zoro steps up. Zoro steps off the ship, and Zoro goes, "It's my time." Like, he doesn't go, "It's my time," and flips out his sword. No, he doesn't do that. But he goes like, "All right, I'll deal with this," and he conquers Haki. All 30,000 gone. Kizaru's the only one standing. He's up here. He's ready to go. He's like, "All right." puts the sword in his mouth. And he's like, only Geary, man. And it's done. It's done. One shot. You one shot's an admiral. The ZKK memes were all real. It's Zoro kills Kizaru. This is what I'm saying, lads. There we go. Get the Zoro hype going. Get the Zoro hype going. Obviously. And then Sanji. I don't know what Sanji's going to be doing this arc. I feel like he needs to have more time with Vegapunk to discuss, like, who he is, what he is, and all the still remaining questions he has with him. I feel like Sanji has a lot to say, should have a lot to say to Vegapunk and ask to Vegapunk because he worked with his dad and might know what's, the effects of the drug and if he's changing or not. Or maybe he just doesn't care anymore, which would be an interesting way to look at it. But I do think it's more important for Sanji to get that information rather than fight this arc. Obviously, he will have a fight. We see he's strong enough to beat Seraphims 1v1, so let's go. That's a big thing for Sanji. I still think he might be stronger than Zoro right now. That is my big take right now, that he's still stronger than Zoro after Wano. But we'll have to see where Oda places him. I think we might see Zoro do some crazy stuff this arc because he's being set up as like the guy you don't want to mess with. Even when Vegapunk showed up for the first time and he was like, immediately they were like, oh, Shaka was like, do not mess with Zoro because he's like this and he's ready to go, immediately. And also Robin got some bigging up as well, which I always respect. I want Robin to get more fights because that Black Maria fight, especially in the anime, was so good. I love to see Robin getting fights. Hope we get to see more of that in this arc. But yeah, no, oddly enough though, they show off all the vice admirals, right? They show them all off in this chapter. All the 9 of them that are there. But but Smoker's not there. I think this is a very clear thing to show Smoker's new allegiance. I think when he found out a Punk Hazard stuff that went on, and then when he went to Vegapunk, he must have found out more information, and he saw what Luffy was doing. He saw what Fujitora did. He might be part of Sword or something, or he might just be on the island. What if he's on the island or something? Maybe because we saw Tashigi with the kids, so Smoker knew the kids were safe. So maybe he's on the island somewhere. He has to show up because we've been seeing Tashigi a lot. We've been, so I doubt Oda's forgotten about Smoker. It's not a Kira Toriyama and launch situation, right? And I know I said in my opinion, maybe Smoker was the first trial for the Seraphim, and he's like a kind of wonky Seraphim trial where he's not actually a clone, but it's just he has some Seraphim abilities, like his hair got a bit more silvery than white, maybe that sort of stuff, and he got like mutated. Instead of having like just the slenderness of the Seraphim and like the power of the Seraphim, his arms are all mutated, maybe like Jugo from Naruto or something, because he was the test subject. I thought of maybe that, but now I'm just kind of thinking maybe he's just switched sides a little bit. Maybe he like believes in Vegapunk or is part of Sword and is gonna be the person to make Sword's first big move against the Marines because of something they disagree with. But then I don't think that's going to happen now. I think that's going to be a thing that happens when we get to Marijoa. So I'm not too sure myself, to be honest, on what he's going to do. I want Tashigi to show up. Tashigi's nowhere to be seen here, but she is probably there considering Doll is there. And Sanji versus Kizaru might actually be more likely because although obviously Tashigi's not on Zoro's level, he is going to try and confront him again. So we probably might see an easy Zoro fight, so Zoro doesn't show off his abilities, and then we get to see it against a stronger opponent later on. Then Sanji fights Kizaru. I still think a tag team fight against Kizaru would be really, really cool, because I wanted that with King and Queen, where they'd fight in the same area and they like tag team the King and Queen, but that never happened, unfortunately, and they got separated. So maybe we'll get that against Kizaru, so they can big up Kizaru as someone who can take on the 2 strongest commanders in the crew, at once. But they obviously win at the end. I just want to tag team Zoro and Sanji, because at the start of the Onigashima battle, when they were fighting together, that was some of the coolest stuff in the pre-Gear 5th raid. I just love them fighting together because their dynamic is so cool and it just works so well together. I just love that stuff, and I hope we get to see it as the chapters go on. But this war is about to begin, and One Piece once again comes back with a banger chapter. But unfortunately, we got a break next week, so you know how it is. There's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. Oda is still probably recovering. I know how those things are. He's still probably recovering, and it's better to take that time to just get better, and even generally just rest. Maybe he's tired. So, and it extends One Piece even longer. That's the thing as well. It extends it even longer, so we get more material over time. So I'm not complaining, but it's easier for me actually because I've got a busy week next week. So it's handy enough for me. With that being said, if you want to talk more One Piece with me, make sure to like and subscribe so you can get these videos when they come out. And let me know what you guys thought about this chapter. If you thought any of my opinions on it were bullshit or what you were thinking about it. I just want to know. Let me know. And with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Have a great day. Bye.